Issues. This is Dave Arnold, your host of Cooking Issues, coming to you live from the heart of Manhattan, Rockefeller Center, New York City, in Newsstand Studios. Joined as usual with John across me. How you doing, John?
Doing great.
Yeah?
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Swell.
Wow.
Super
Sweet.
good.
Yeah. All right. Got Joe Hazen rocking the panels. What's up?
Hey, how are you doing? No city bike today, huh?
Yeah.
Well,
Not in the studio.
Here.
Oh, in the studio. Yeah, no.
We thought maybe you might bring the whole dock in today.
Yeah, the nice thing about the wintertime is that not as many people bike to work, so these docks are actually not as jammed up as long as the bike's working. In the upper left, Quinn, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Quinning it up? Everything Quinny Quinn?
Everything is great.
All right, good. And with trepidation, we in Los Angeles, we got Jackie Molecules.
Yep. I'm here.
Nice. And Nastasia the Hammer Lopez.
Hello.
Hey, so before we get into it, how are the conditions on the ground today? Is it getting better or worse right now?
It seems like it's getting better, but every day it's sort of another scare. I mean, we don't have the winds that we did last week.
Right.
Not quite, at least.
Because I heard the winds were going to pick up again, but they didn't, or they did?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's supposed to be today that they do. It's been, I don't know, it's been crazy. We both have so many friends that lost homes, and it's just a really psychedelically weird time here.
Huh. And the Altadena fire is the one that's closest to you guys, right?
Yeah, and then there was a Hollywood fire that kind of spooked everybody for a night that was very close. I mean, you know, even the one in Pasadena, when Stas and I went to go visit Mike's bar, we could see burning flames from the highway. It was very weird.
The Palisades, Jack, not Pasadena.
Palisades, that's what I meant, sorry.
Yeah. Huh. And what's the air like there to breathe?
I mean,
it's fine now. Yeah.
That's what they say. I mean, but they're also, it's like sort of the same thing with 9/11, where so many buildings go up, and it's like, you know, you don't know what other stuff is in the air,
right?
Other than regular wildfire smoke. So, I mean,
yeah, it did smell on 9/11. It smelled different. You know what I mean? It wasn't like normal. Yeah. Because the only reference I have for big fires like that is, you know, the ones that were hundreds of miles away in Canada that affected us here in New York, and those even hundreds of miles away choked us. Like, you know, everything turned black from soot. You couldn't really go outside for too long without a mask. I mean, I hope it's not that bad over there.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it. I mean,
last
last week was like that.
Ugh. Awful.
Well, luckily my air purifiers just showed up. Perfect timing.
You didn't get one like you didn't buy that first post-pandemic or pandemic era air purifiers and everyone bought them?
I had one, but it wasn't enough to cover this whole apartment since we both, my girlfriend and I both work from home. So, you know.
So which one of you got the clean air? Did you give her the clean air or did you keep the clean air?
No, she got the clean air.
Oh, nice. That's nice. Good man. I like the idea that one side of your apartment is clean and the other side's like a soot factory. Anyway. Are people going out still or no? Like, what's it like? Are people still trying to go about their normal business, or are they hunkered down?
Yeah, I think so. Right, Stas? I mean, I'm seeing more people trying to.
Yeah, we went out.
Some kind of. Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
And well, was it fun? What do you got for me in the way of food? Now back to your food finalia. Did you eat and or drink and or cook anything of import or interest in the past week or so?
We went to Mike's bar again.
Yeah.
And then we went to, what was the cuisine? Indonesian?
Yeah. What's the name of the place? Remember.
You guys are just going through zombie life. Yeah, you're going through zombie life. I understand it. Yeah. I get it.
Yep.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Anyway, Nastasia, by the way, Jack, is trying to convince me to go out to Los Angeles in a couple of weeks to do something.
Yeah,
I know. I told Jack, and Jack said that he would even DJ at the thing that you might bartend at. But I also know, Dave, that getting you to come to LA or do anything with me is really hard.
What?
As opposed to with other people.
Just so that first of all, Nastasia, that's the biggest load of horse crap, tiniest violin situation.
Not,
it really is. When was it? When have I said? when have I said no, Nastasia? Like when some people say, here is a budget and a brick of money. Come do X, Y, or Z. We're like, okay, I will take said budget and said brick of money and come do X, Y, Z. Like, I don't go anywhere like just at the drop of a hat. It's not my life. I don't just like pick up sticks and go do things ever with anyone. No one. In fact, like it's only the past year that I started taking like normal like where I go. I just don't do it with anyone. I don't know why you think that it's somehow a slight against you. Like, who on earth, call in, anyone that knows me or has ever met me, ever, any human being who can hear my voice, call in to, if you're a Patreon listener, to 917-410-1507, that's 917-410-1507, and tell me a time that I have gone and done anything with anyone anywhere when it wasn't for business. All right. Right? I mean, John, have you ever known me to do that?
I'm staying out of this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not getting in between you two.
But
I mean, you did come to see me.
It's true.
Right, but I was visiting a coworker, and it was for one day, and it was on the way to Alaska, and the Canadian officials at the border were real buttheads, and I'm not ever looking forward to meeting those people again. You're going to visit a guy for one day? What are you, crazy? On Vancouver Island? Anyway, yeah. I forget what I snuck into Canada that I wasn't allowed to sneak in. There's something. Some food stuff.
Oh, the sandwich.
Oh, the sandwich. Ooh, the contraband sandwich. What was it? It was a muffaletta from New Orleans, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Was it any good? Do you like muffaletta?
Yeah, my brother and dad devoured it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very specific sandwich designed for working folk and meant to keep for a long time, which is why it's the ideal thing to bring, on a cross. In fact, what do you call it when you're across one country border? It's not cross country. It's, I don't know. Anyway.
I don't know.
So yeah, Stas, if we can make it work, we can make it work. You and I have to talk about the other garbage. All right. So nondescript, maybe Indonesian food wasn't bad enough for you to remember, wasn't good enough for you to remember, and Mike's Bar, which I'm assuming you liked again.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, it's the best.
Yeah. What about you, Quinny Quinn? What do you got for me?
Actually, this week I made some hazelnut butter, all local hazelnuts. We roasted them fresh and ground them in my, conch / wet mill, however you want to refer to it.
The wet mill. Wet mill sounds
I think
gross.
that turned out.
Yeah, I mean that's what it is, but it sounds real gross.
Yeah. Yeah.
John,
That turned out pretty good.
Are you familiar with? I know you are because you're an art history person. Marcel Duchamp.
Of course.
And the famed painting on multiple sheets of glass called "Grinding Your Chocolate."
Yeah.
So for those of you that don't know, like the stuff that what Quinn is using is a repurposed and I think rebranded because you don't have one that's branded to make idli, right? A Indian made wet grinder for things like idli batter and other wet things where you take pulses, you soak them, you put them there with water, 2 or 3 stones depending on which one you have, grinding forever, also great for mustard, but have been repurposed recently, i.e. the past 15 years for making chocolate at home, right? You with me? Stas and I have had several, whatever.
Okay, mine was like branded for chocolate.
That's what I'm saying, but that's really just a rebadge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a rebadge. I mean, if it makes you feel better that it says chocolate on it, hey, great. But my point being that, that's where it's from. Now, it is, in fact, very similar to the old-style chocolate grinders, and so the image that I'm thinking of, I think, has 3 big wheels on it, and rolling around and crushing chocolate, grinding chocolate in this Marcel Duchamp thing. But tell them what grinding your chocolate means in French.
What do you mean?
Well, I was told when I was taking art history back in the day that was slang for...
I'm not familiar with this slang.
That's slang for, getting yourself to the finish line.
Huh.
Grinding your own chocolate.
I don't know that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
going to have to... Yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for teaching me something new.
Yeah. Well, I figured, so it could be a lie.
Yeah.
It could be one
Maybe.
of those lies that they teach you, but that sounds like Duchamp because he's that kind of a guy.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of a play on something. Absolutely, yeah.
Who was it? Remember when Seth Godin was on and he said, because he's like a student of the woman that Marcel Duchamp ripped a lot of stuff off of. Remember this? Way back when he came on?
Yeah, it's blurry.
Yeah.
I remember when he was on. I don't remember the story.
What was her name? I'm going to look it up. Anyway. So how was the hazelnut butter?
Good. I think I need to tweak it a little bit because I actually like the flavor of you grind everything together so you get like some of the astringency.
When you say
from the
grind it
skin.
together, you mean the
but-
nuts? Or do you mean you didn't take the skins
like
off the nuts?
I don't shake off all the skin.
Okay. All right. So you like a little
Yeah,
bitter,
That's right.
you like some bitterness? How roasted were they?
Yeah. I did like 300 Fahrenheit for like between 35 and 40 minutes.
Oh, that's a weird number.
So like I would say moderate roast.
That's a strange number. Long time at a low temperature. That's some weird. What do the inside of the hazelnuts look like? I hate it when the hazelnuts get
It
like
was
burnt in the middle.
I would say it was a subtle color change all the way through.
And where did you come up with that number? Why that number? And why that time?
Just some trial and error from other nut roasting. Again, I can't check it myself, so I always tend to go a little lower in temperature and then set a timer so that someone else can check it.
By the way, we had a question in on nuts and nut butters that I don't have the answer to. And they said maybe we should wait for Ariel to come on, and maybe we will. But I'm going to say it on air live in case anybody has the answer and wants to get into it with us. Where is it? Oh, gosh, where is this question? Oh, yeah, from Monty Z. Why do freshly ground nut butters taste so different from the nuts alone? It's an interesting question.
I mean, I have a hypothesis.
Okay. And if you're going to give me a hypothesis, you also have to give me information about how someone might go test it to see if that hypothesis is true. Otherwise, the hypothesis is of no use.
Yes, I mean, I would guess that, especially if you are roasting them whole, and then again, if there is, especially in the case of hazelnuts, that sort of exterior skin component, once you're grinding them, there is interaction between exterior components and interior components that is just going to, either some chemical reactions is going to happen from grinding, especially over a long period, or just the completely homogeneous mixture will taste different than what you can achieve by just chewing them.
But Monty hasn't said how they are grinding the nuts. There's no information about whether they're blanched, whether they're roasted, whether they're skinned, whether they're salted, not even what nut it is. The whole point is that regardless of what technique, roast level, and not even like you say grind level, right? Like could be going through a champion juicer with the blank screen in, which is a good way to make butters, or we used to use the wet grinder, but first we would RoboCoo or VitaPrep them so that they're small enough to rock and roll in the thing, get them a little warm.
Yeah.
Could be the heat thing. Like I've started using did I mention the nut oil press on the air?
I think so.
When
I
Matt,
don't know if you did.
Really?
I think maybe you posted about it.
no, I didn't post about it yet. When Mads Reflins came on, he was like, you need to get a nut oil press because it's going to change your life. Well, so I got one because they're really cheap now. Like you can get one for like an inexpensive one, like the ones that have a better brand name cost more, but like the ones that are very similar but don't have a brand name, they're like, I think they're under $200, right? And I've run some initial experiments with it, and the oil yield is incredibly dependent on temperature. Like incredibly. So when you run peanuts, which I know aren't a nut, don't get started, Quinn. I know it's not a nut, but when you run peanuts, an oil seed, a legume, through the unit, and you don't jack the temperature, you get no oil out of it, like none. But what you do get is and I actually used it as this. You get an amazing nut powder out of it that is kind of really fluffy and not pasted together at all. So I made mazapan with it. So, because for those of you who don't know, like, I can't tell you how many times, even at Economy Candy, I went to Economy Candy, which is our local fancy candy store down on the Lower East Side, and I said, I think I even called them. I was like, do you have mazapan? And they're like, yes. And I show up and they hand me marzipan. And I'm like, listen, I know that my Spanish is garbage, but like mazapan and marzipan are not the same thing. You know what I mean? But I don't think we get a lot of people, at least in the Lower East Side, eating mazapan. In LA, you get mazapan everywhere, right, Stas? You can get mazapan everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, it's not almonds, it's peanuts and sugar compressed into what look like giant Alka-Seltzers, like discs or like tiny urinal mints or giant Alka-Seltzers. And they're in like a wrapper, I think with a rose on it or something, right? And then when you eat it, if someone makes what you need to do is give one to somebody and then crack a joke when they're eating it. So they have to breathe in, they breathe out a little bit, and then they breathe in, and then all peanut dust and powdered sugar goes into their lungs, and they're coughing for like a week. That's what you got. That's the trick with mazapan. Also, get people to eat it over their lap without a napkin because it's like it breaks into a million pieces and it's dust everywhere. But it's delicious. But you can make mazapan with this nut grinder. But when you jack the temperature up to like higher than you would think, jack the barrel temperature up into 100 and something Celsius. I forget, I have the number somewhere. You get massive amounts of oil. So the oil yield, right, and therefore probably also the flavor of what's happening, as you say, Quinn, is vastly dependent on temperature. But I'm assuming that you're doing a cold grinding and they're doing cold grinding. You're trying to keep the oil in the nut, although, whatever, you can emulsify it out. So nuts are dependent this way. But I think Monty is saying that there is some difference in general in the way the homogenized nut tastes from the individual nut, and I just don't know the answer. But I think it's, like you say, it's probably something to do with you're turning it into a homogeneous paste, but it could also be that you're releasing more aromas by grinding and releasing oil in a way that your mouth can't do. I mean, there's all sorts of theories, but Ariel might know.
Yeah, and also, it said that, the flavor of chocolate also changes from extended conching, refining, even when the particle size is at the proper size. So you let it keep going often.
Well, there's multiple things with that, right? There's the mouthfeel on the particle size and aroma release, but there's also literally the volatilization of components, especially the way that we do it at home, where we're doing it for a long, long, long time, longer than anyone else would do it, eat it commercially, right? Typically, you're flashing off notes the same way that when we used to go get the crazy water from Saratoga and all the people were like, how can you drink that? It tastes like sulfur. I'm like, the sulfur flashes off. Once you carb it 2 or 3 times and you burp it, you fluff it out, like the sulfur goes away. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing with conching. You're getting rid of aroma. But I don't know if that's what's going on. There might be something more blah, blah. I don't know.
Well, it would be relatively easy to test if you had the equipment, because they also specify freshly ground, so you could compare crushed nuts, very ground to fresh nuts, and then a week-old ground nut.
I love how, Quinn, you're like, it's fairly trivial if you have a GC, MS system. If you have a GCMS system with especially if it has a sniffer port.
Tasting.
Then
I meant tasting the difference.
Well, wait, Monty can taste the difference, wants to know why. You know what I mean? And the fact of the matter is that knowing why would help you figure out how to control it. I mean, that's the reason why it's good to actually have a hypothesis you can test. Because if you can test a hypothesis and you know the answer of why something happens, it helps you make better culinary decisions, right? That's the whole reason to know the science behind anything when you're cooking. It isn't just so you can feel smart. It's so you can make better decisions when you're cooking. You know what I mean? And what I don't do often enough, get rid of unnecessary steps. I can't tell you how many recipes I have that have unnecessary steps in them, because if it worked the time you did it, when you wrote it down, who has the time to run through and get rid of all of the steps? Stas, do you remember the egg bread?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So we did this whole thing where we had discovered that if you take egg yolks, we're getting fish bowled. If you take egg yolks and then just yolks and sugar and salt and I think it was baking soda, could have been baking powder. I got to look it up. I think it was baking powder now I think of it. And you mix it up and you blend it, get a little air into it, and then you pressure cook it. It turns into a bread that's made entirely out of egg yolk. right? So it's on the blog somewhere. You can look it up. And so we were like, oh, that's another application for the pressure cooker. A guy named Jeff Butler, who's, was a teacher at the FCI, was like, I put it in a steamer and it worked just as well. I was like, oh, snap. You know what I mean? I was like, because in general, when you're doing a lot of recipe testing, it's very hard to go back and retest all the hypotheses. So the hypothesis was that you needed the pressure cooker. Wrong. You know what I mean? And so I didn't test it. And this happens in recipes all the time. And no one has the time and energy to go back and figure out which one of all the little things they have are real and which ones are just their intuition, which could be right or wrong. You know what I mean? Yeah. Stas and I were like, go for it. Because it was on the menu at Lake Hull. They're like, is it okay if we don't do it in the pressure cooker? Stas looked squarely in the dude's face and said, I don't care even a little bit. Yeah. Anyway. All right, what else we got? What do you got, John?
I went to La Tête d'Or on Saturday night, Daniel Boulud's new steakhouse restaurant thing.
How was Danny B? It's Golden Head?
Yeah.
Is it related to Golden Eye?
I don't know. I didn't ask.
Is that Pierce Brosnan or is that Daniel Craig?
Pierce Brosnan.
Pierce Brosnan. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did run into DB on his way out, though, which was nice to quickly see him for a second. But yeah, that place really exceeded my expectations.
Well, what were your expectations?
I don't know. It's always kind of like low in general going to a new place.
So you liked it, though?
I loved it. It was great.
What style of steak?
All of them. I mean, it's also really expensive.
I'm saying deck broiler, pan, grill.
Wood grill, also like prime rib trolley, which I appreciate.
Danielle knows how to do some old school.
Tableside Caesar.
How was it?
Pretty good.
Wood bowl?
Yeah, wood bowl.
Rubbed garlic?
No, they had some of that like already I know.
No, crap on them.
But still.
Get out of here. Cut the garlic in half, rub it on the inside of the bowl, or get out. Get out. If I'm going to do it with regular garlic, I might as well do it in the back like an a-hole. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah,
I'm sure it was delicious.
It was.
Well, how was the romaine treated?
Just like thickish kind
sliced?
of chop. Yeah.
Do you know my mom came over for the Christmas and she's still on the thing. She's like, I tear it. I'm like, all right, Ma. Exactly. Is anyone else here still a tear freak on lettuce? Does anyone remember when tear became a thing? Oh yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
You would go to someone's house and the lettuce was sliced and you're like, no, I see that you're one of those people who slices their lettuce. And then after a while, we're all like, the hell, this is fine.
Yeah. Doesn't need to be hand ripped apart and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Although I will say this, I wonder, because I haven't done it in a long time, I doubt there is. I don't think there is now that I'm saying it. You know how like when you cut onions with a carbon steel knife, everything goes crappy? The whole night's ruined. Like the knife has that smell forever. The onions turn black. Everything's terrible. Life is bad. I wonder if there's something with lettuce with carbon steel blades, and maybe that's where the ripping came from.
Huh?
I mean, a stainless steel knife, shagunk straight through the lettuce, ain't causing a problem. Does not make the lettuce wilt.
No.
Especially like a firm lettuce, you could slice that thing. It is, as we say, fine. You know what I mean?
Yes. Huh?
What's worse? Tiny pieces of lettuce or too big a piece? Too big.
Too big.
That's why you don't tear.
Yeah. I hate it when you go to a restaurant and you get like the whole leaf as the salad. You know, like a bunch of the whole leaves.
Unless even if they mean it.
For me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cut it up.
All right. So let me ask you this. Everyone picture a romaine leaf. All right. I like the middle section. I don't really like the floppy ends. If I'm going to have romaine, I want that crunch. I don't want it too close to the end where it gets a little bit knot, and I don't like it I don't like it at the green end, and I don't like it at the stem end. I like the kind of that solid center section of the romaine. Does anyone prefer the floppy outside? No, right? No. Now, if you had to erase from existence butter lettuce or romaine lettuce?
Butter.
Yeah, me too. What about you? Anyone keeping butter?
Yeah, I guess not. Though I do love buttered lettuce, but
okay,
yeah, between the two,
you're erasing iceberg or romaine?
Romaine.
Wow. So keep the iceberg? Strong.
I think I'm icing iceberg.
You're icing. Oh, it's
More
up.
application. Yeah, I don't know.
All right, but wedge salad will never
Yeah.
be the same.
That's true. I really do love good wedge salad.
Good. Listen, as a child of the 70s, for those of you that are like more recent vintage than I am, do people still like blue cheese dressing as much as I love blue cheese dressing?
I hope so, but I don't think so.
No? Joe Hazen doesn't like the blue cheese dressing. He's got this wave in the head. There's only one. I know that salad bars are filth, like literal filth. I mean, but as a child of the 70s, I grew up with loving salad bars, and I always was a blue cheese dredger. I would take that like horrible beige ladle and I would dredge all the way to the bottom of the blue cheese and pull the giant chunks up and then like all of the bacon bits and all the croutons on like 3 pieces of lettuce. That was my jam. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right. One more salad question. Half a hard-boiled egg, yes or no?
No,
No?
No.
Because it's too big or because you don't want the egg?
I don't want the egg.
Huh.
Usually, yeah.
I love an egg on a salad, but it's too big.
Wait, have hard-boiled egg in what context?
As a salad ingredient, as a green salad ingredient. No? Anyone else? Anyone else pro
Sure.
egg? Yeah? Okay, here's one more for you. Sorry, I said I was done with salads. In the 80s, in the 70s and 80s, it became a big thing to have quote unquote chef salad. And what chef salad was, what back then, was a regular garbage salad, right, with dressing of your choice, and then like strips of cut up deli meat and blocks, sometimes strips of cheese, and then pieces of egg, a lot of times put through one of those like wire slicers, right? And then all kind of on top, and then you chummed all that stuff up with garbage tomatoes, like, crunchy tomatoes, you know what I mean? And I have to say, delicious product.
When I think of that kind of thing, I think of the Cobb salad. I love a good
Cobb salad is God's salad.
Yeah, it's so good.
Cobb salad, I think, might be the height of saladry.
Yeah,
The Cobb salad is delicious.
it's so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Just works.
Do you like it when it becomes more of a meal and they chickenize it?
Yeah,
Me too.
yeah, definitely.
Me too. Even with like overcooked, crappy, like chicken tenders.
I almost prefer it that way in a weird way.
Wow.
Especially when you have that like really hard char on there that
Yeah.
you don't really want when you're cooking and you know what you
Right.
should be doing, but I don't know, like it still works.
Right. Can I give a suggestion for if you want charred and you happen to have a like an outdoor grill? Go high heat. Go high heat. Take your chicken, take thighs. Don't take the tenders. Take thighs. Bone them out. Get them flat. Then salt, sugar, pepper. Beat the crap out of them with a mallet. Then put them into a marinade of your choice of like oil, plain yogurt, little bit of sugar, lemon, olive oil, garlic, spices of your choice. So you could do cumin, you don't have to. You could do, parsley, you don't have to. Grind all that crap up, marinate that for a while. That's going to soften it even more, season that sucker up. Super high heat grill tandoor style, like off on till they're done. Drench those with butter, eat them day one. All your leftovers, Cobb salad.
Yeah.
That is the ultimate Cobb salad, charred chicken McGillicuddy right there.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Anyway, the key to the marinade, obviously, the acid, the yogurt, and the acid. And the other key to chicken that you grill the hell out of is dousing that sucker with butter when it comes off of the grill. Just whenever you're doing super high heat grilling, God help you if you don't have just scads of melted butter around. You know what I mean? Even when I'm doing like flour tortillas, I know I'm supposed to use lard, I'm not supposed to, but I brush everything with butter. Because why would I not brush everything with butter? Especially if you have vegetarians who do dairy.
Yeah.
Butter.
Yeah. But it's delicious.
It really is, though.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah. I don't use butter in my tortillas instead of lard. I use olive oil. Whatever.
No.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
No. How the hell did we get on this? Oh, you were talking about Daniel Boulud.
Oh, yeah.
So you're
Table
saying
side
wood
Caesar.
grill.
Yes. Yeah, but then also some things pan-seared. I don't know, they just did like the whole mix. I didn't see a big broiler there.
Do you remember when they used to do like prime rib service, you could ask which section of the prime rib you wanted out of so you could get it more or less done? Yeah. What'd you go for? Did you get prime rib?
The person I was with got prime rib.
Of course they did.
Yes.
Nice.
And it was great, like perfect medium rare.
How
edge
thick?
to edge. Good. Inch? 3/4 of an inch to an inch.
Ooh, how burnt up was the outer deckly
Not
fat
enough.
stuff? Oh,
Not enough, yeah.
because that crunchy crap,
Yeah, it's the best.
you know what I mean?
No, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, everything on the menu was really good. The service was on point. The desserts were great. I mean, it was a beautiful space too. Usually, like I've liked Daniel's food in the past, but I also think, when you go to like Café Boulou or things like that, it's still very good, but it just feels a little dated, especially with the plating presentations and all that stuff.
It's supposed to be though.
Yeah, no, I know that's his thing, but
And when anyone busting out like any tableside or Garridon stuff, I'm like, yeah, baby.
Exactly. Don't care what it is.
Don't care what it is. And, I've only had their tableside stuff at like, Danielle, the flagship Danielle, but those folks were skilled, man.
Yeah.
Like they did the whole fish, the whole fish in the coffin, open it up.
It's beautiful.
No touch filleting, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
With like this, amazing. My God.
Love that stuff.
Yeah,
lost
dude.
art. Yeah.
Really is.
Yeah.
So what did it set you back? You allowed to say?
Okay, well, Dave, that's dated, but now the trend is for like a new trendy restaurant to just bring you out a whole and a knife and be like, have at it.
Yeah.
You do it.
I know. I
Just
hate
make
that.
you do the work. That drives me crazy.
I hate that. Here's another thing. I hate to say this.
Why would I want to work?
Yeah, I don't like carving anything either, which is why I debone almost everything that comes out. And people are like, "Can you cut it?" I'm like, "No." You know what I mean? Like,
Stas and I once sent a half chicken back to the kitchen to have them cut it. Well, I was like, "You do this. I'm going to ruin it. I don't want to use this crappy knife and butcher this thing."
Then they weren't going to give you a discount, right?
No, and it's on a tiny little cutting board that's like juices all over the place.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
To hell with that. That is trash. Although I will say this story. So my niece Mabel likes those little seaweed snacks. That also Booker likes them. They're like, they're the same little nori things that you would wrap around an onigiri, right? So they're not full sheets, but they're not tiny strips either, right? And so Travis, my brother-in-law, goes to the store to buy them the snacks for Mabel, and the person behind the counter hands him the giant, the industrial pack of nori wrapper for sushi that's like 100 of them. You know what I mean? Yeah. So much cheaper. It's the best way to buy nori by far.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And he goes, but do you have the ones that are in the sheet? She goes, you cut it. He's like, all right. So now no matter what, when he sees something, he's like, you cut it. Anyway. But not at a restaurant.
No.
It's good advice when buying nori. Because why am I paying them all that money to cut nori up into smaller chunks and sell me a bunch of plastic to carry it around? But, yeah, I agree. Carving sucks. How do we get on that? Oh, because they don't make you do that at Danielle. They carve it for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course not. No.
Yeah. 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 No, it's a lost art. Some things that are dated are gonna come back. Hopefully, like the thing is that you don't want everything to be like that, but it's nice to have an incredible level of service every once in a while if you can afford it. I know how much did it cost. Are you allowed to say?
I didn't pay, thankfully.
Oh, yeah. You know what the best?
The
you know what the best
It
steakhouse?
was
Yeah.
the best.
The best steakhouse is Free Steakhouse.
I recreated the. I can't believe I'm blanking at the. I didn't do filet. I did the dried ribeye with the foie, the truffles, and the sauce Périgord. What's that? I'm blanking on the escoffier name for that dish, but whatever. It was delicious. I was glad to finally have it, and I was glad not to pay for the bill. So,
did they do a fresh slice over
of foie?
No, did they with the truffles?
Yeah.
And did they look at you and then wait for you to nod?
No, they didn't.
Oh, that's my favorite. That's my
That would have
favorite.
been great. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. It was
And
great.
does Monsieur have the huevos? And you look at him, you're like, oh, keep going. And then just beads of sweat as the money is just going on to your food. Shink, shink, shink. Oh, my God. I've never had any. I've always wanted to have a service thing like that where I could make someone who's trying to impress people like really sweat on like how much ridiculous money that they were, shaving over the top of their food. You got to do that at Temperance, like something crazy.
Yeah.
And just see when they stop.
Yeah.
It'll
I
be-
mean, I guess it's truffle season, but yeah, we'll see.
It would be amazing, like in the future when we all have like augmented reality, like glasses, and we're never looking at each other in the real life anymore. We're only looking through these like giant like Apple display situations. Like if it could like have it like ding 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 up top, like actually have the money rolling
money
over
counter
like over
be
your
great.
head as you shave, so you can see it. Like when they play football and they can live put like the
Yeah,
lines and
yeah.
stuff over it. That's the
That'd be
future.
amazing. Yeah.
Oh my
for that
God.
specific application.
It's worth it just for that.
Yes.
Like, everything good and bad that's going to happen is all just so I can see someone sweating
Yeah.
as the money racks over their head when shaving truffles. But, yeah. Okay. Did I have anything in food? Oh, today's both my kids' birthdays. Yeah, because they both had the same birthday 3 years apart. Booker now 23.
And why is that, Dave? And why is that?
Schedule, Stas. Schedule. Once a year, I have a schedule. Anyway. But,
So sad.
yeah. But, so both my kids are in their 20s now. One of them in the state of 23, and one of them is 20 in the state of New York, but 23 in the state of Pennsylvania, if you get my drift. I was like, how old does your fake ID say you are now? And he's like, oh, I'm 23 now. I'm like, sweet. Sweet. It's such a weird fiction we have in this country. Like, he doesn't own a car, so why can't he drive? I mean, why can't he buy alcohol? You know what I mean? It should be one or the other.
Yeah.
Every New York City kid that I know of would go for a drinking license as opposed to a driving license if they were given a chance. Live in the city and don't have a car, whatever. Oh, so I have to make squid again. Booker is going to eat an entire 3-pound box of squid. By the way, for those of you that don't know, I have, before I said that it was impossible to buy clean squid. That was only like during the pandemic for like a year or two. It was hard to buy clean squid. It's very easy to buy clean squid again. But here's the thing. So what do I hate most about cleaning squid? Answer: everything. It's all a nightmare job. But I really hate when they're frozen and you haven't thawed it enough, and they're so hard that when you cut through it, you realize you've cut through the pen in it, and then you have to go back to all the tubes and pull that little piece of pen cartilage out of each one because your knife went through it because it's so cold that you couldn't feel it when it was thawing out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I hate that. But here's what I hate about the new clean ones. They take the beak out, thank God, right? You know what I mean? But like they leave a chunk of meat on the tentacles that you would never serve. So I have to go back and trim it. Why? Like, I'll pay you an extra nickel to get rid of that for me. You know what I mean? It's like, right? I mean, like, I'm not haggling with you over the price of the box because you're selling them to me in a frozen box anyway. So just trim that garbage out because no one wants that. Did you know? I asked this question. I was at Aquabest buying 2 boxes of it. And they're like, you want tubes or tubes and tentacles? I was like, I want just tentacles, fool. And he's like, we don't have just tentacles. I'm like, well, what do they do with the tentacles
Just the tubes.
from just tubes? And he goes, I don't know. So if anyone knows, I want to know what happens to just tentacles. And what do you guys like better? Do you guys prefer tubes or do you prefer tentacles?
Tube.
Yeah, I guess tubes, but also legs are still really good.
This Styles calls that tubes.
Tube.
Yeah, I tell you what, though. I look, in general, I think it's easier to cook a tube. You know what I'm saying? Like, easier to cook a tube, easier to pick up a tube, easier to dip a tube. But when the tentacles are nice and it's got all that textural variance and you know what I mean? Here's something I wish was more delicious: baby octopus. Baby octopus could be more delicious than it is. Have any of you had a baby octopus that lived up to your expectation of how delicious that baby octopus should have been?
No.
Me either.
No, not that I can remember.
Yeah.
Gizzards. Delicious,
also,
right?
octopus has to be the most consistently disappointing
Ooh.
menu item.
Nice
Like,
take.
well, I love octopus. I'm just saying it's like a lot of people botch it.
And okay, so there are many ways to botch an octopus, which is probably why they're so disappointing. What's worse for you? Okay, there's tough. There's way chewy. There's like just completely botched, right? Then there is
That's what I'm talking about.
all right. Then there's tough, right? Then there's so tender it's mushy, right? And so all of those are terrible. And it's only when
They're
it's
all bad.
those are all bad. I'd rather have it a little too tough than too mushy, though. If it's me,
Guess that's right.
I don't know. I think I think it's really hard to cook fresh octopus too. People think the fresh octopus is better, but I think it's easier to cook a frozen thawed octopus than it is to cook a fresh one and get it good because the freeze thaw cycle just ka-chunk, takes a little bit of the out of it. Do you like cold octopus or hot octopus?
Hot. I
Hot?
like them both, though.
I don't eat octopus.
Yeah, I know.
Why?
They're so
Wait,
smart. Like, it's kind of freaky. You know, how smart.
Wow.
I mean, you know,
I don't just like it. It doesn't really matter. I don't like it that much.
well, valid choice. I mean, my feeling on it is that one, if they lived long enough, they would totally be our octopus overlords. You know what I mean? They would totally have taken over, and they'd be driving around in like aquariums on land and telling us what to do. So I'm saying, to hell with them. The other thing is, they don't live very long anyway. It's not like you're taking 40 years of life away from an octopus. You know, here's an interesting thing, and I don't know what the answer. What percentage of octopuses that are caught are at the end of their life cycle, I wonder? And does it make them better or worse? I'm sure that like female octopuses, when they are, watching their eggs brood, right? They're blowing water over them all the time to keep parasites away and to guard them. They don't eat that entire time, right? So they're like wasting away. So presumably that would be a bad tasting octopus. Presumably.
Well, I don't think you would catch those.
How do you know what you catch?
Sort of like
because
die there.
No, they wander off and die. Saying that like the males, when the males mate with the female octopus, right? Then they go loony boons and they just wander around the bottom of the ocean waiting to get tagged by a fish. Are those the ones we catch? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, are we catching healthy octopus? Like, how do we even catch? Like, what are we doing? You know, I have no idea. I should know. You know what I mean? But I don't. I know I ran a test once where we cooked all of the legs of the octopus separately and tasted them separately, all different. Different tendernesses, and obviously vastly different from tip to base of the tentacle. Anyway, wow. My octopus dinner. All right, how did we get on octopus? Oh, that was what disappointed Jack. I think gizzards are really disappointing, considering how delicious they are. Duck gizzards. I had a duck gizzard salad in France. I'm still trying to figure out how they cook the gizzards. Those gizzards were not, you know how when you boil a gizzard, like or you pressure cook it, it gets soft, but it's not interesting anymore. They had a gizzard that had just the right amount of bite to it, still had all of its flavor in it. I don't know how the hell they did it. I love gizzard though, by itself, as just not as just serving to people, but gizzard. Not as good as a heart. A chicken heart, duck heart.
Yeah, really good.
Come on. Delicious. All right. Lord Naboo wrote in and said, I was going to give my squid recipe. Think people want the squid recipe? All right. So a box of tubes and tentacles, when thawed, yields about 879 grams of squid, a little bit of ice chunks left in it, whatever. So I thaw it as fast as I can under running water. I chop it up, and then I add to the 879, 15 grams of salt, 200 grams of buttermilk. The acid's going to help tenderize the squid, and then 15 grams of sugar. Stir that all up, soak it in a Ziploc bag, get rid of the air, soak that in the fridge for however long you want, a couple hours, doesn't matter. Then I drain it in a colander. When you drain it, I save the buttermilk and all the stuff that it's been in. It's also going to release some liquid because you salted it, right? So you're going to get more than 200 back. I add an egg to it, 4 grams of soda, 6 grams of baking soda, 6 grams of baking powder. Then I take the squid that's in the colander, throw it into flour, then, toss it all around in flour. Remember, you don't need to pepper and salt the flour. I don't add pepper to this, by the way. Normally I would, but Booker hates pepper. So there's no pepper in the soak. I would normally add it. And then out of the flour, put it back into a dry colander, chack, knock off the extra, into the liquid, back into the powder, deep fry. That's what I do.
Solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I do. You can do it differently, but then you're not making the one that Booker wants.
Well, what was your oil temperature?
Hot. Like I'm doing it at like 360, 365. This is another point. It's going to come up in a second about, it's going to come up. Frying is going to come up in a second, but oil temperature, it used to be back in the day before I, would low temp chicken before I did my fry offs. And maybe it was better, maybe it was worse. I would have to constantly ratchet my oil temperatures up and down, right? So, I would fry chicken at a much lower temperature than I would fry French fries at for the final fry. And, per Jose Andres's advice when I was much younger, why don't you just write every recipe to cook at the same temperature? Right. So I've told the story on the air, right? So I was interviewing him about planchas because they were becoming huge. So I interviewed Danielle because Danielle had a new jade plancha was being designed, like Spanish style. It's the first time a Spanish style planchas were being designed by American equipment manufacturers. Jade was the first one to do it. So Danielle had one at some restaurant he was opening in Vegas. I interviewed, people who were using like American grills as planchas and flat tops, like Andy Nusser over at Cosmono. And I call up Jose Andres and talk to him about Atlantico, right? And I was like, "Oh, so you have all the different sections of the griddle and you turn them on different temperatures so that you mimic a plancha?" He's like, "No, I have it all one temperature and I write all the recipes so that everything cooks at the same temperature, so I don't have to worry about where I put something down on my freaking griddle for it to cook in the exact amount of time I want it to cook." And I was like, "Oh," and at the time, I was like, "That's crazy." And then the older I get, the more I'm like, "That's so smart. That's so smart." You know what I mean? That's so smart. Getting rid of variables. There's no truth to like the heroic person who has to juggle around. It's like, remove variables, man. Anyway, Jose Andres. Lord Nabu was reading in the food lab, stumbled across the claim that binchy potatoes aren't particularly good for making fries. French fries, Belgian frites. This surprised me, it is, as far as I know, the preferred potato in Belgium for exactly that purpose. This has led me to a number of possible conclusions, and I would like to hear the opinions on which is possibly correct. 1, perhaps there's a difference in North American binchies and European ones. 2, perhaps the binchy is more suited to Belgian style of cooking fries because they want the binchy flavor, they adjust their recipes. Or 3, Kenji is wrong. Okay, well, all of these could be true, first of all, or all of them could be false. It is possible that binchies are slightly different because binchies, if my memory serves me, I looked it up more last week. I didn't get to this question because we had someone on, but binchies are relatively early tubers, right? And the longer something so first, let's just back up for a second. What's at issue here? It's the starch content, right? So a potato has a couple of things you got to worry about. 1 is the flavor. Do you like it, right? And then 2 is what's the starch content of it? And the importance of the starch content is that potatoes are, we consider potatoes mostly to be starch and water, right? So the higher the gravity, the higher the density of the potato, the specific gravity, the more starch there is, the less water there is. And at a certain point, right, a potato has so much starch in it that when you cook it, the starch grains swell and shatter the cells of the potato. And that's the difference between fluffy and waxy. So in a fluffy potato, there's so much starch relative to water that when the starch granules puff up, it creates that classic baked potato, right? And for French fries, we typically, Americans, that's also what we want in our French fries, that kind of fluffiness. And so you can look at those, and when you do a baked potato, and I hope you all do this, you bake the potato, you do the score line down the middle, you put your fingers on both ends and go boop, and when it comes up and kind of busts itself open and you see those little grains, that's how you know you've done a good job. Now, specific gravity is the density of the potato, which is, like I say, a good proxy, right? And you want the starch to be relatively high, a relatively high density for making French fries, because aside from the texture of the starch, it also means that you have to remove less water, because remember that French fries are a moisture management situation. So in order to have a crispy outside of the French fries, you need to dehydrate that area of the fry enough so that you remains crispy even when they're hot, and moisture keeps them coming out of the middle, right? That's the whole trick of French fries, which is why you need to do twice fried. And then in America, we typically do a water blanch. Maybe we freeze them. All of these are dehydration techniques and cooking techniques to try to get the French fry perfect and still crunchy on the outside. The Belgians, by the way, for even if you look at the way that I have said it on the blog, or the way most of us do it, it's a very multi-step process, because we're not willing to just really control the first fry. The Belgians, who, by the way, here's what you should do. You should go to Belgium, right? If you have questions about, are the Belgian fries really that good? Go. You know what I mean? Like you go and you're like, oh yeah, like the average idiot in Belgium at a fry shop does a better job of fries than we do. Period. You know what I mean? And same with waffles. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of settles a lot of arguments. And you can ask them, what do you do? And it's better than the ones that we typically do. Now, so bin cheese, if you're talking about gravity, are medium high, right? So they can be they're medium high. The standard Idaho potato, right, has to have a specific gravity of at least 1.08. Right. That's the kind of magic number where they start to fluff out. Anything below 1.07. So 1.07, it's denser. It's like, so water's 1, potato 1.07. So, and you can test this at home if you really give a crap. An 11% brine, 11%. So like 11 grams of water and 11 grams of salt and 11 grams of salt and 89 grams of water, 11% brine. That is 1.08 density. If a potato floats in that, it's going to be fluffy. And if a potato sinks in that, it's going to be fluffy. And if it floats in that, it's on the line. I'll give you some other ones. 1.1, which is a dense potato, 13.25% salt, and a 1.09, 12.14% salt, and 1.070, which is Idaho's minimum for fluffiness, which is kind of where benchies are, right, is 9.5%. Here's another thing about potatoes. Dax, I think I said this on the air, has started to prioritize potato flavor over necessarily texture. So he wants me to come up with techniques that get the correct texture while maximizing the flavor. And what that means is you don't soak them beforehand. Whenever you soak a potato beforehand, you're reducing the potato flavor if you actually do side-by-side soaked and not. So then you need to figure out, okay, does the benchy have too much sugar in it? Because if you look at Belgians, I don't think they're soaking their fries, John. I think they just go, bam, into the first oil. They cook it for a long, long time at a lower temperature, so longer and lower than we did. So last time when I called you, I did my test at 300, I think 260 or 300 Fahrenheit for like 11 minutes. Nine minutes. Kept them blonde, pulled them out, did the second fry at 365. Crisp as hell, no soak, just cut them and immediately took them and put them in the oil. And I think that's probably going to be the best tasting fry. I got to do some more tests, but anyway. So I would not argue with the Belgians on what potato to use. And the technique that you use is going to be all important on exactly what you do. And there's a billion ways to make a potato delicious, even when it's fried. Something that looks so simple as a French fry, there's a million ways to get to that. So is that covered, smothered?
I'd say so.
All right.
Covered and smothered.
Yeah. Vengroff writes in, whenever I visit France, I marvel at the quality of chickens for sale at affordable prices in ordinary markets. You go to the, you like a French chicken?
Yeah. Good poulet de Bresse.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, I mean, it's delicious.
Have you had the American ones that are like breast chickens?
I have not. I've heard really good things, though.
I also have heard good things, but never had one.
No, I haven't, yeah.
Has anyone here had or no? The flavor and texture are miles ahead of anything we can easily get at home. Well, Vengroff, what do you mean by the texture? How do you like a chicken? So American chickens are the softest chickens on earth. Like our chickens are soft. You know what I mean? So do you like a chewier chicken? I don't know exactly what you're looking for. I mean, in general, the French have a chewier chicken, do they not, John?
Yeah, they do. A little tougher.
Yeah. Flavor and texture are miles ahead of anything we can easily get at home. I think to first order, it's mostly due to fat content and sanely sized breasts that don't dry out if you cook them the wrong way, but I'm sure there's more to it than that. Where can I get decent chicken like this in the NYC area without breaking the bank? I don't know, man. People because the problem is that most chickens that are sold here are still going to be, 6 weeks or younger, like very high or very low, however you look at it, feed conversion ratio. So like they're trying to plump them up as fast as they can on as little food as they can to keep the prices as low as possible. And if you do that, I mean, that's not a recipe to make an intensely flavorful. It's the same thing with like strawberries. When you jack them full of water, when you buy Driscoll's that are jacked full of water, they're jacked full of water. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I mean, you know what's interesting to try in New York? Have you guys ever cooked the Bantam Silkies?
No.
They're good. They're tough. They're very, very flavorful, but they're tough and bony and expensive. And people will give you weird looks because they wonder why you're buying them. If you're not buying them for TCM reasons, they're like, why is Why is this white dude coming in and buying these Bantam Silkies? And I'm like, I want to eat them. But they are quite flavorful. They're good. I haven't bought in New York City. There was a place, probably still exists, called Bobo that had the little markers on the Buddhist chicken that you would get it would have the little metal tabs on the wings called Buddhist chicken. They were cut with the heads on, and they were supposedly slightly better. You could probably Patrick Martin's over there at Heritage Meat. I haven't spoken to him in years, but I'm sure you can get good chickens from him. I don't know.
Dave, remember those giant lambs that he had?
Wait, because the ones he couldn't get rid of?
The giant lamb racks were Mossad.
Oh my God! Am I allowed to tell that story?
I think so.
What chef was it? Do you remember?
Carlo? I have no idea.
Was it Carmelini? Did we ever do anything with him?
I don't know. He only tried to choke you out.
Yeah. So it was so I forget what chef it was, but we were doing this event for MoFad, and they ordered a bunch of rack of lambs from Patrick, and Patrick had gotten the order wrong by an order of magnitude. He thought that the chef was asking for all the lamb on the Eastern Seaboard. You know what I mean? And because they asked for 50 racks or something like that for 150 people. They asked for 50 racks, which is reasonable. You know what I mean? Or whatever it was. It was reasonable. I looked at the numbers. I'm like, that's reasonable. A rack is going to get, however many little chops. Each person's going to get 2 for this dish. You know what I mean? It's totally reasonable. And he was so zoned and crazy. First of all, he goes crazy on the chef. And I can say this because I forget who it was. He's like, they use the cheapest meat in their restaurant. They never buy from me in the restaurant, only using the cheapest meat. They want all of my lamb. And I was like, Patrick, they asked for this number of racks. He's like, and he had how many pounds was in a rack of lamb off by a factor of 3. I'm like, Patrick, he's not asking for that many pounds of freaking lamb, brother. It's only a rack doesn't weigh that much. It's you sell these things for a freaking living, man. Racks weigh nothing. They weigh nothing. Good times. Good times. All right. Okay. So I didn't answer Van Groff's question, but maybe someone can send me or put onto our Patreon, Megillah, good chicken in the New York City area. Good chicken. Does Edwards doesn't do chicken, right?
No. We have to get him on too. Yeah, I don't know. All the good restaurants have their own relationships with the people who raise the chicken, it seems. I don't know.
Yeah. Xander, when making rapid infusion, how do you test/adjust flavors for consistency? I've found variations in the strength of my coconut vodka infusions. Any notes? Time is really important, and also how much liquid you have in the container is important. I highly recommend do it now before they become illegal. Buy a tank and a regulator and an adapter so that you can just do it by pressure alone, and that's going to take almost all the variables out. Then it's just you got to get your times right because you're going to get your pressure the same every single time. That's probably it. Could be the fact that your coconuts are changing, but most likely it's the volume in the container is changing. Tyler got a meat slicer and would like some unholy version of a loaf deli meat, thinking of deboning a chicken and grinding them together, then gluing the ground chicken, wrapping it into a cylindrical shape, and then low temp cooking it. Will this work? Should I do something else? Be careful. If you bind meat together that's ground with meat glue in a tube shape it's ground and you salt it, it's going to get hard as hell. So you either need low salt or only a tiny amount of meat glue. If you add salt and you do it together, you shouldn't really need meat glue to bind a loaf together if you're going to cook it. Depends. I should say this. If it's going to be meatloaf and it's coarsely ground, sure, meat glue it together. But if it's going to be emulsified like a deli loaf, then just be careful. Meat glue plus salt equals hard like a ping pong ball. Is that okay? All right. Let me see. In Salumi by Ruhlman and Polson, they claim there's some special effect that happens when you cure lardo for 6 months in a marble cast made with marble mined and colonata, and that's Carrera style. And they speculate that it's from calcium carbonate in the marble that makes the final lardo creamier or something. They claim the marble specifically has this effect and won't be the same if you cure it in a different container. Could this be true? And can you think of a mechanism? I don't think that's true, but there has been some studies on
curing in marble, and I think it's mainly the fact that marble is not porous enough that you won't die if you put yourself in a coffin made of marble, but it's relatively porous, and they have done tests. They did a test, I looked it up, but it's really dumb. It's because they ran a test on curing it not in marble and curing it in marble, but when they did it colonnade style in the marble, they also added the rosemary and all the other stuff that you add to lardo, and then the one that they dry cured that tasted different when they did GCMS on it, right? Had different fatty acid profiles. I don't think they used the rosemary. At least it didn't say so. So that's also a problem because it has, effects other than has curative effects, has preservative effects. So there is a difference, but I don't think it has anything to do with the calcium carbonate. All right, so I'm going to have to get to Lucas's problem on the next go around, and also Andrew's non-alcoholic liquor question next time around. But next week we have Matt Sardwell from Kitchen Arts and Letters. So please ask us all of your classics in the field questions. Yeah, cookie issues.